space for inspiration, growth over everything has evolved into something far greater, a movement for education, empowerment, and elevation for women. Here, gratitude isn't just a concept, it's a way of life. Strength isn't just spoken about, it's cultivated. Success isn't just imagined, it's achieved. This is where balance, self care, and transformation take center stage, where you don't just dream about growth, you step boldly into it. No limits, no hesitation, just elevation. Join the movement today. What up, y'all? Welcome back to the Woman's Hustle, Thrills and Spills of Entrepreneurship. It's your girl, Coach K. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are watching, then you see that I'm not here by myself. I'll allow my guest the honor of introducing herself. Hey, hey, hey.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Me too. Me too. Please let the listeners know who you are and a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Lachelle Barnett. I am a licensed therapist by trade. Since being in this entrepreneur game for the last, I think this is my sixth, seventh year. I lost track, but most of my clients call me a business therapist. Okay, so sometimes we're working on the business and all of the marketing, sales, curriculum, blah, blah, blah. And other times we're working on them. Right. And so when people started calling me the business therapist, I was like, oh, I like that for me.
I
And so
like
that's what I officially call myself these days because sometimes we're doing personal development work and sometimes we're doing business. So
I love it because I totally believe that when trying to start and elevate and pivot in business, you have to make sure that personal side stays aligned with that as well. So I'm super excited to vibe with you today and to learn more about it from the therapeutic standpoint. To be able to vibe with a therapist that does it by trade, I'm super excited to dive into that with you today, sis. So let's dive in. So tell me a little bit more about what got you started and where it got you here today.
girl, how much time do you got? Okay, so let me give you the
Oh, we got
short
time.
version. So when I got into coaching, it was definitely by accident. I know some people feel like they were born to be entrepreneurs and they love that was not my story. I definitely got into entrepreneurship on accident. The short version is I was working as a therapist. My youngest son lives with his dad. His dad decided they were going to move across the country. For context, I live in Indiana and they were going to move to Texas. And I was like, guess I'm moving to Texas because guess where you're not taking my baby.
I
Um,
know that's
and
right.
so I quit my job and I started the transition to move to Texas. And in the midst of all of that, God really opened the door because I had a lot of time. I had quit my job because they was moving quickly, and I was like, so for context, my son is on the spectrum, on the autism spectrum, and so he doesn't do very well at the time with change. And so I knew this was going to be a big transition for him, and his dad isn't exactly as patient as I would like him to be. And so I was like, all right, I definitely need to be here for this level of a transition. And so everything happened very quickly. And what I ended up having a lot of space is what I'll say. And in that space, people started to send me things. And I had my first experience with like an online conference, right? So as a therapist, we do a lot of what we call CEUs, learning education kind of stuff to maintain our license. But this was my first time ever experiencing an online conference. It was my first time, maybe I think this was my first time if I remember correctly, the very first one I went to was all black. Every speaker was, I was like, oh, I don't know nothing about this. So it was a whole different experience, but that was my entry point into the online coaching space. And it just kind of took off from there. I could go into that if that's important. But what I think was probably more relevant is that the first 5 years of my business, I was basically just helping people with business strategy. I was working with aspiring coaches, people who were very new to business because I had already run a nonprofit. So I knew enough business to be helping somebody who was at the beginning. And it's only been in the last 2 years, and I don't know even know if it's been the last full 2 years that I've gotten back into my therapy roots. Because before this, we didn't do no personal development. There was no mindset. There was no none of that. It was just straight marketing, sales, and a lot of curriculum, right? So as a therapist, I run a lot of groups. And so we had to design curriculum. And so I did a lot of curriculum design. But in the last 2 years, I have really felt the pull to step into what I would consider to be my gift, which has more to do with the personal development side. It has more to do, I still have the same audience in terms of entrepreneurs. Most of them are probably like mid six figures. Some of them are lower six figures, but relatively the same audience in terms of still serving entrepreneurs. But now the work has definitely expanded into a lot more internal kind of stuff versus the external.
I love it. I love it. And I think that that's important. I love that you talk about like the multiple levels because I think that that's something that we all feel like somebody, a lot of people feel like that everybody's classified together. And that's not necessarily the case, especially being on the entrepreneurial journey. So I love that, one that you're like, hey, but let's talk about that purpose. You was like, hey, I felt that pull. I felt that
Mhm.
alignment. I love when women say that they feel that pull because I think it's important for us to step into that. Sometimes we may be scared, fearful, or whatever, but I think that it's dope that you stepped into that. You was like, I don't know. But I love that you did that.
Can I just say one thing about, okay. So let's talk about getting into alignment because I had a lot of resistance, right? Like it was God who said, baby girl, that's not what I told you to do. And I was like, but you
Mhm.
did, but okay. So let me just say that as much as we
Yes, I
love
know,
to
I
talk
know it, I
about,
know it.
as much as we love to talk about alignment, and we should, because it's very easy to get out of alignment, we also should be talking about whether it's full blown resistance, whether it's fear, whether, we could name it a lot of stuff. But there is this internal thing that happens for many people when you have to get back into alignment, right? I think it's worth mentioning that if you're feeling like this mixed emotion, like, oh, I'm really excited and I don't want to, or I'm really excited and I'm tired, or I'm really, whatever the mixed emotion might be, I think it's worth acknowledging, oh, that still could be alignment, right? Like, usually alignment is not 100% let's go. Usually there is some
Right.
element of excitement and joy and whatever. And then there's also fear and letting go of the old and blah, blah, blah. So I just want to
Ooh,
say that
talk about it.
while I'm happy with the
I'm glad you
transition, it's
did.
still, uh-huh. Yes.
Love it. I love it. And you're right though. I love you touched on that a few minutes ago about how, you had the vision of being an entrepreneur. I didn't either. Before 2019, I was totally fine in corporate America doing what I do and content. You know what I'm saying? So the personal
Mhm.
development, the personal transformation within that actually sought me on the journey to where I'm at now. So I can definitely relate to that
Mhm.
a lot. One of the things you work with, I really want to touch base on it, is those high achievers, right? And then
Mhm.
like the addiction that they may carry. And these are actually the words that you use. You call it addiction to achievement. I would really like for you to
Mhm.
touch on that a little bit because when I talked to you and was like, I think this is going to be a great topic because I really do see this in a lot of people. They might not see it, but I do
Mhm.
see it as a coach and someone that's on that journey myself. So I would love for you to touch on that a little more.
Mhm. Okay, so this is one of my favorite things to talk about. So I'm gonna try not to completely geek out and use all of the psychology and brain stuff. But what I will say, this is probably the easiest way for me to articulate it. A lot of times when clients come to me, they are in what I would consider to be an emotional roller coaster, right? They are some days great and some days get somebody else to do it, right? Like there's a lot of I'm a quit, but I'm not, but I am, but I'm not, right? And a lot of times, while there could be multiple reasons for that, one of the most common has to do with how they manage their time and how they manage their task, right? A lot of times it's like, oh, I got a lot to do. I don't have enough time, or my to-do list is never ending. Like usually it has something to do with not enough time and too much to do. And so sometimes, often, people are coming looking for productivity tips, time management tips, organization tips, anything that's going to help them be more
Right.
effective and, get more done. And what I have to often ask them is this a time management problem or is this a capacity problem? And they're like, I don't know, right? Like, tell me what you mean. And I'm like, well, I could give you some time management tips, but those feel like the surface level responses. And then in 3 weeks, you're going to be like, what else you got? Because that didn't work. Because that's not
Yes.
actually the real problem, right? The actual, we not, sometimes we be like, because we're so busy, we like to solve problems that we feel like we can solve versus the problems that
Yeah.
actually need to be solved. And so
We don't
I
want to be
always want to start with, yeah, well, and sometimes we're willing, but it is tricky to go out and hunt and eat and still do the work. Sometimes it's not a I'm not willing. Sometimes like I literally don't know how to keep the business going and work on me.
Right.
I'm willing if somebody to show me how to do it, but like in real life, my priority is figuring out how to get this money, straight. Because if not, everything falls
Yeah.
apart. And so what I find is that most of my work is helping people manage their ambition with their capacity, right? Because most of my clients have big goals, they got big dreams, they got stuff they want to accomplish. And it's like, yeah, but your capacity doesn't match your ambition. So we got to figure out how to both balance that and increase your capacity at the same time. And so what we often talk about when I ask them, do you have a time management problem or do you have a capacity problem? And I have to explain that to people. Most of the time it is me saying, well, you actually have a capacity problem. You don't have a time management problem. Like a capacity problem is you having 40 hours a week to work on your business as an example. And a lot of this is some like at least half my clients have jobs, right? In addition to their business. And
Yeah.
so what I have to do is paint the picture of you have a full-time job, you have a husband or somebody, you have elder care, you got kids, you got your own spiritual walk, you got your own health, you got whatever. Maybe you don't got all of those things, but you got some variation of that, right?
Exactly.
And so that leaves you with 10 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours, 40 hours, whatever, however many hours you have to dedicate to your business. Okay. Let's say you got 40 hours, but you're trying to cram 60 hours worth of work into 40 hours. That's not a time management problem, my friend. That's a separate issue. Right. And so we could get into all of that. But what I would say is that the addiction to achievement comes when we won't accept our capacity and we don't know how to increase our capacity. When we keep trying to
Mm.
put 60 hours worth of work into 40 hours that we have because we won't accept that I only have 40 hours. And what's crazy is that, don't geek out, Lachelle. Okay. The simplest way
Nope,
for me to
nope.
say
We
this
want you
is
to geek out. We want you to geek out. Geek out. Geek out.
most of my clients respond to everything with work. If something is amazing, they sign a new client or they have a good launch or whatever good happens in the business, they respond to that good with work. It's like, oh, now I'm gonna add this other thing, or oh, I'm gonna fix this other thing because I got new clients coming. Everything like so. If something amazing happens, they respond to work. If something bad happens, they also respond with work. Like work is the response to almost everything,
Right.
right? And it's like, well, why is that? Why is it that we just work and work and work and work and work and we don't realize, well, one, is it getting you the results that you want? Because that's number one, right? Like we need to be checking in with ourselves around, excuse me, whether or not the effort that we're putting in is actually producing the results that we want.
That
And so
part. Come on.
what I often find is that people are being driven by external factors, not internal factors, which is where the addiction to achievement comes in, right? External could be other coaches, YouTube, books, podcasts. It could be parents and husband. It could be an older version of yourself. It could be a lot of different things. But and here's the root of it. It's like that achievement, that's how we see ourselves. When we get money, right? When we're helping clients, when we're doing some kind of achievement, then we feel good. But if we aren't achieving, then we don't feel that great. And it's like, oh, that's not going. That's not it. Like you're supposed to feel amazing
And
with or without the business. If you were
that
never an
part.
entrepreneur, then what? You and the business are separate anyway. So let me just be quiet because I could go on about
I
that.
love it because that I felt that so deep because I see all the time where people allow external factors to dictate their business, their real life running their businesses off of what somebody else is doing, what they see somebody else portraying. And I tell my clients all the time, if you see somebody that's doing amazing, it could be one of two things. One, they could be actually doing good, or they got a bomb marketing team that's making you think that they just got it great. Either way, it's a win-win for them. However, you can't focus your aspirations on that. You can't focus your business structure on that, what your plan is, because it's different. Everybody's business is different. I don't even care if you're selling the same type of product or offering the same type of service. It still has to be different. And a lot of times people will completely stay stuck in the realm of the same information, the same product, the same service, knowing it's not working for them because they're scared of that change. You touched on that as well. We don't want to make changes. And sometimes we don't want to listen when people trying to give us that non-biased information like, listen, I know that this particular way that you wanted to do this was passionate for you, but it's not working. But because so and so over here might have been, it might have worked for them, we will stay stuck on that dead end street.
Mhm. Yeah,
I think that's crazy.
I think that first of all, we as humans as a whole, even if you are not an entrepreneur, struggle with letting go. It is
Yeah.
part of the normal human psychology to not want to let go of anything, whether it is I've been in this relationship for a long time, whether I had this product, it doesn't really, it's like, you want me to let go of my baby? Yes. Because your baby is not producing what you want it to produce. But I also think one of the things that I find to be interesting that is different from my often different from my male clients versus my women clients is that
Mhm.
women tend to have a lot more resistance. How do I say this in a loving way? Right? So here's how I would say it. My male clients have a lot more ego. They're not in their heads in the same way. They don't need to think about it and they don't need to be in alignment in order to flourish. Their ego just says, I got it. I'm good. Let's do it. Right. And then they got a different
Yeah.
problem down the line. Whereas women tend to have more resistance on the front end because something feels off or right. Like and it's like, so what we have to learn how to do is manage the resistance, right? Like
Yeah.
there's a whole thing around just all of the resistance that come up. And we need to understand the difference between being out of alignment versus being uncomfortable. Because a lot of times my clients, well, not my clients, but previous clients, I hear people on the internet saying, well, I don't do that because that's out of alignment for me. And the whole time I'm like, no, that's uncomfortable for you. Those are not the same, my friend.
It.
They're
Yeah.
not, those are not.
And I think we're following, a lot of people are following the trends, trending words, trending topics. And I literally was just talking to somebody about this the other day. You know, you have so many people self-diagnosing themselves and, you know, saying, oh, this is me because this, and that. How do you know? Like, have you been officially diagnosed? Have you officially went and had a conversation? Have you officially been told this is what's wrong, you know, or this is the situation? You know, and just from that, you know, what do you believe that there's some of the common, like the mental health challenges that you observe from the entrepreneurs that are driven from that external success and that validation? What do you see from that?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that when entrepreneurs operate from this addiction to achievement, there are lots of things that I could say, but I think the one that is universal is that number one, there's a lack of fulfillment, right? We often think that the
Mhm.
impact is the goal, the money is the goal, the whatever is the goal, and I'm all for the money, I'm all for the impact, right? But the actual goal is fulfillment. Like the actual goal is to fulfill this assignment on your life, not all the other things that lead to that, right? And so the first thing I would say is that a lot of people are entrepreneurs. I literally have clients who have been an entrepreneur for 40 years and entrepreneurship is just dragging them along. Like they're not gonna never let go because there are some perks on this side of the street. There's more time freedom. There's less of a salary cap, et cetera, et cetera. But they're not thriving, right? Like they're in survival mode, right? And so there's all
Mhm.
these diagnoses, quote unquote, that we could have that are connected to survival mode, whether we're talking about depression or anxiety or all of these things. But I think that the root of this is like, well, are we surviving or are we thriving? Right. And
Woo,
a lot of this has
come
to do with
on.
emotional, not just financial, because if you looked at some of my clients financially, you would think they was out here killing it because they're making good money. Right. But making good money doesn't equal thriving. It means you got a better chance of thriving. We're not going to act like the money don't matter. But the
Right.
number of people that I've served that are at 6 or 7 figures and are not happy is a lot. Like they're
I
all
believe
like,
that.
there's some element. Right. So, and so what I would say is, I think this has a lot to do with understanding what does fulfillment look like for you and who will you become in order for that to be the standard, right? Because it will require you to rise, right? It will require you to become a different version of yourself in order for you to be able to have fulfillment, not just money, not just time freedom, not just impact, not just some of these things that are really important, but those things don't by themselves don't automatically equal fulfillment, right? And so in order for us to be fulfilled, you have to step up, right? Because there's all this noise, right? All the time that's telling you should do this and you should do this. And sometimes you're the noise and you need to get out your own way, right? And it's like, ma'am, that's a different idea than you had last week when I talked to you. The answer is no.
Oh,
Right. I also tell my clients all the time, like, I feel like my real job is I'm just out here managing people. Like that's all I'm doing. It's like, oh, that's what you want to do. Well, let's just walk it all the way through then, because it's slightly different than what you said a week ago. And so I think that we just probably need, and so then when we talk about it, they're like, oh yeah, I probably shouldn't do that. No, we should not. We should not
right.
do that, ma'am. Right. Or sir, because some of my clients are male. But I think that's the thing that I would just offer to people is you have to slow down long enough, right? Which is the part of the problem. Like I had a client this morning that I talked to, and we were talking about they got sick and they were in the bed for like a week. And
Mm,
at the end of it, they were like, I didn't do anything but watch TV. I've never done that in my life. Like I never spent one day watching TV, let alone a week. And they're like, what if I didn't even know this was like it just opened up a whole new world because they were like, I've never why do I have to get up so
done
early?
that.
Why do I gotta work so late?
Yeah.
Why do I and it's like, yeah, why do you? Oh, you don't. Somewhere along the way, either you decided or somebody said, or however it got put into our brain, right, that this was the only way or this was the way. And it's like, oh no, you get to create the life that you want. And that doesn't have to be money
Period.
without impact, right? You get to have all the things. Like that's what I would love for people to hear is that you get to have all the things. Like you get to have all the things. Sometimes we think well, I get to have the money, but I don't get to have the time freedom. Or I get to have the time freedom, but I don't get to have the money or whatever. And it's like, oh no, you get to have all the things. But in order to have all the things, you will have to raise your standards. You will have to become the kind of person that settles for nothing less than what you deserve.
Baby, listen. Y'all, she preaching up on here. She preaching up on here. I'm telling you, listen. Hey, I cannot stress that enough. That fulfillment is everything. You have
Mhm.
to, but you have to walk the journey to get there, and you have to be open minded to walk that journey. I love that you really went into detail in that. I really wanted to ask you, but I think you kind of answered it, just how you help your clients stay connected to their why. You help them establish their why, but once they've established that, how do you help them stay connected and also stay purpose driven, but also aligned with their values? Or how do you help your clients stay connected?
Yeah, a couple things. The first thing I would say is I help them understand the difference between getting into alignment versus staying in alignment. Because a lot of times in order to get into alignment, you have to say a lot of yeses. There's a lot of experimentation. There's a lot of trying new things, right? There's a getting to know you period in a way that you haven't known yourself, right? But then once you understand that you are in alignment, then you have to learn how to say no. Getting into alignment is a lot of yeses. Staying into alignment is a lot of no's, right? And so
Ooh.
part of how we I help them understand that is that one concept. It's like, oh, well, you keep saying yes to stuff that you don't have capacity for. You keep saying yes to stuff you don't even want to do because you feel like you have to do that. No. I think the other thing that I would say, how we help you is that we help you understand the difference between principles versus preferences, right? Principles are the non negotiable elements of business that nobody gets around. You have to market, you have to sell. These are non negotiable, right? But your preferences is how you want to market and sell. You get to choose, right? And I think one of the challenges as an employee, you didn't get to do a lot of choosing. You get to do whatever somebody told you to
Right.
do. And so now when you come over here in entrepreneurship and there's a million decisions that need to get made, you're not giving yourself permission to make them the way that you want to make them. You're giving them you're making decisions from a place of obligation, from a this has to be this way. It's like, no, you have to market. You have to sell. That's the principle, right? But you honor the preference. It's like, oh, I don't want to be on TikTok. Don't do TikTok. Now, if you tell me you don't want to market, that's a principle. Now you're not gonna get
That
what you want.
part.
But you have to understand the like so that's another way is helping people understand the difference between principles and preference, and then teaching them how to give themselves permission. I think the last thing is helping people, what I say is raise their fucking standards. Okay. Right? Like it's the difference between having a standard versus holding a standard. Right? We think that desire is enough. It's not, my friend. Desire gets you pointed in the right direction. It gets you directionally correct, but it doesn't actually bring the thing you want into your reality, right? The thing that brings things into your reality is not desire, it's decision. You have to actually decide, right? Like I can have a standard that says I don't do blank, but then if something comes around and then you do blank, it's like, well, that's not holding the standard. You have to raise your own fucking standards on your own life. And when you learn to do these things, you learn to say no, you understand your preferences, you learn how to raise your own standards, then you begin to create the actual inner peace that you're after. Because that's really what most of my clients are after. It's like, oh, I'm doing a lot, but I don't got a lot of peace. I don't got a lot of, oh, it's like, oh, well, one of these three things is likely in the way.
Yep. Whew. Baby, listen, y'all. She took y'all to school today. If y'all stay this episode as a favorite, I don't know what y'all gonna do. Okay. Michelle, let me tell you something, sis. I love how you teach. I love what you're doing. And you inspired me, but also taught me some things today. So I really do appreciate it. What's upcoming for you?
Yeah, so I recently launched my podcast, right? Called The Entrepreneur's Couch, where we are talking about
Nice.
all of these internal kinds of things, right? Trying to play on the little therapy. And I also am launching a program called The Entrepreneur's Couch, where we talk about all of this stuff, right? All of the internal pieces of being a leader and being public facing and, being addicted to achievement and all of these different things. So that is the thing that we are working on the most is getting this program up and running. I already have clients in the program, but we're getting ready to relaunch and do all the things. So that is my
I love
focus
it.
for Q2.
All right. I love it. I love it. And I will make sure that her links to get in touch with her to reach out to learn more about her services and everything that she offers will be in the podcast description notes. So you guys can definitely reach out. I love to have these conversations because I really feel like us women need to understand that sometimes we got to get accountable and understand that we might be our biggest roadblock. So her telling y'all from a therapeutic standpoint is just that confirmation that you may need to say, you know what, I might need to restructure, I might need to realign, refocus. But if the passion and your journey to fulfillment is still there, then do yourself a favor and get you some support to help you make that happen. All right. Lachelle says, thank you again so much for popping on the Woman's Hustle. I really appreciate you coming in here and just sharing your expertise and your insight. It was a joy to converse with you
Thank you.
today.
I appreciate it.
All right, y'all. Well, y'all know where y'all can find me at. Again, if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, make this your confirmation to do so. If you are listening audio wise, make sure you have favorited the Woman's Hustle Thrills and Spills of Entrepreneurship on your platform. Till next time.